Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead Micro Moment Monday, where today we're going to talk about something because of a post under one of our videos several weeks ago. I love it when we learn things from our community. I had done a video on, it was about our 60 days of meals, and I think I put a package of soup like this. This is very typical of what we have out there in our freezer for our 60 days of meals. And I just put it out on the countertop. It's a south-facing window. It gets plenty of sunshine. It's warm. And this is, I thought, a perfect place to thaw things like soup, which will then be completely thawed in about 15 minutes and ready to go into the pot. Well, the viewer that made the comment, she was very sweet, very respectful, and she said, I thought there were only 3 safe ways to be able to thaw frozen food. Well, I had never heard of that before, and I grew up in a home where my mother just left things out on the counter to thaw. She was very watchful, and we never had any issues, but I hear myself saying the same things that I have sort of criticized other people for saying, well, my mother did it, and so I do it, and so that's safe. So we are learning a new approach in our household. Actually, I am the one that is learning it, because Jim, in his pursuit of what he wanted to do for the rest of his life, took some chef training. For how long, Jim, did you?
For a semester.
For 1 semester. Even though that is not what he selected for his profession for the rest of his life, he learned some really important things. And I noticed from the first part of our marriage that he was very, very persnickety about foods being left out on the counter, which was great because I learned some things from him too. But I went online and did some research, and I found that our viewer was absolutely right. There are only 3 safe ways to thaw food. The big thing for us to remember and consider, and I usually do not, even in a college classroom, did not expect my students to just memorize and then spit back a rote memorization answer on a test. I wanted good thinking. I wanted demonstration of problem solving. And so I rarely required memorization of anything, but this is something that I think it is very good for all of us to memorize and just file away, and that is that the danger zone for food that needs to be refrigerated is between 40 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit, or 4 degrees and 60 degrees Celsius. We have to watch our trailer refrigerator like a hawk. We have a separate thermometer hanging in our trailer refrigerator because it sometimes tries to creep up above 40, and that puts our food for the whole days that we're going to be gone right into this danger zone. So we make sure that we pack it so that the refrigerator, so that there's a lot of air circulation available and the fan can move that cold air around. And we've gotten it to where it works really well now. On the counter here, you see the typical foods that we are now using in our Level Up Our Food Storage for the 60 days of meals that we are preparing for in case of an emergency. So I have this frozen soup. It's frozen flat. Here is some chunked chicken. We just actually took this off of the bones a couple of days ago so we could do our video on big batch chicken broth, and this is completely cooked chicken. And I thaw this, and then we use it in a whole lot of things, including salads, for which I then don't refrigerate it again. Once it's thaw, I stir up the salad and we eat it. And if there's any leftovers, of course, then I refrigerate it. Here is a pack of pork chunks. These are not cooked. And so, of course, once they are thawed, they would need to be cooked before we do anything with them. And then this is about as big of a meat packet that we have. And this is a 2-pound package of pork country ribs. And I use this for a specific recipe. I do have a 5-pound pork roast out there as well. But we have eaten our Thanksgiving turkey and our Christmas ham and our Christmas rib roast out there that were there. So we no longer have great big chunks of meat. So how is the best way to defrost these items? Well, the USDA tells us, and that's my reference for today, is the USDA. They've done extensive research on this and have published a really good article on safe defrosting of food. And what they suggest is that there are 3 safe ways to do it. But first they give us some things that we should never do. And I'm guilty of at least one of these. Perishable foods should never be thawed on the counter. That was me. Or in hot water, and must not be left at room temperature for more than 2 hours. That is because, at least on the outside edges of something that is defrosting, obviously the outside is going to become warmer before the inside. We might have outside of the food in the danger zone, but it's still frozen in the middle. And so that's why countertop defrosting is not good. When thawing food, it is best to plan ahead and thaw in the refrigerator. So this is the number one preferred way of doing it. It is safer and gives us the most versatility, which I'll talk about in just a minute, where it will remain at a safe, constant temperature at 40 degrees or below. So that is why the refrigerator is the safest place. The second way is cold water method, and the third way is the microwave method. So let's go into each of these just a little bit deeper. For the refrigerator, what they say is, and what is very obvious, is that planning ahead is a requirement because it takes longer to thaw something in the refrigerator. It can take several days to thaw a big turkey if that's what you're planning to do. My daughter brought us over they have chickens, and she has a lot of eggs. And so she blended up some eggs ready for the freeze dryer and then didn't get around to bringing them over, so she put them in gallon bags and put them in her freezer. Well, when she brought them over, they were frozen solid, but they wouldn't fit in our freeze dryer trays, so we had to thaw them. Jim just stuck them in our outdoor refrigerator, and it took 3 days for them to thaw before they could go into the freeze dryer, and then it was just fine. They were kept cold the entire time and were very safe. What they say is with refrigerator thawing, with ground meat, stew meat, poultry, seafood, they should, once they are thawed in the refrigerator, they will remain good and ready to cook for an additional day or 2. And with red meat cuts, such as beef or pork or lamb, roast, chops, and steaks, once they are thawed in the refrigerator, they're still good for 3 to 5 days. Now, only with refrigerator thawing could you refreeze the food without cooking it. Not that you would ever want to do that. Some of the quality may be lost. Jim and I were just having a little side conversation about that declaration from the USDA. I always thought that so long as there were still some ice crystals left on the food, it was okay to refreeze. And Jim thought that you could never refreeze food after it had once been frozen. But according to what the USDA says, you can refreeze food that has been thawed, provided it was thawed in the refrigerator. So that's an interesting point. Next up is cold water thawing. And this method is faster than thawing in a refrigerator, but it requires a lot more attention. First of all, the food must be encased in a leak-free bag so that water or air does not seep in during the thawing process. And the food must be completely submerged in cold water, just from the tap, cold water from the tap. And then that water must be changed about every 30 minutes so that the thawing process will continue. So that does require some extra attention. So if you're going to be working in the kitchen or close to the kitchen for 2 or 3 hours, because that's how long about that would take to thaw, then that would work.
Also double bag.
Yeah, you could. You could certainly double bag. And what they say here is that a 3 to 4 pound package, now this is a 1 pound package, could take up to 2 or 3 hours. So the estimate is about 30 minutes per pound for cold water thawing. Remember, submerged, completely submerged. Then what they say is that foods thawed by the cold water method need to be cooked before refreezing. It doesn't say you have to cook them immediately, but we need to use good common sense about that. I would not be thawing something like this unless I was going to be using it right away in cold water. If I was a little bit iffy about it, I would thaw this in the refrigerator. The last way is microwave, and Jim is an expert on this. I will very often bring in a package of chicken chunks or something that is pre-cooked like this and ask him to thaw it, or it doesn't have to be pre-cooked. He has learned our microwave like an expert, and knows just exactly how to set the time and how to set the defrost level and so forth, so that he can defrost things within about 15 or 20 minutes. Now, with microwave thawed food, there is a little bit of danger associated with this, because the food can become warm in a microwave, which kicks it right here. And so the recommendation is to cook it immediately. Once it is thawed, don't stick it back in the refrigerator. Don't leave it out on the countertop. Once it is thawed, use it, cook it immediately. All right, and then they have one last thing to say to us, and I just need to read this to you. They say, never thaw foods in a garage, a basement, a car, a dishwasher, or a plastic garbage bag, or out on the kitchen counter, outdoors, or on the porch. These methods can leave your foods unsafe to eat. Also, they say that it is okay to cook foods without thawing first. I know a lot of people do that in instant pot cooking, pressure cooking, not canning, but pressure cooking. And that's perfectly safe to do. It will just take a little bit longer, up to half again as long, to cook the food if it goes into the cooking environment and it is still frozen. I hope this helps all of us. It certainly has helped me. Really the only violation of these rules that our household has been guilty of is laying packages out on our thawing counter over there, which is no longer going to be a thawing counter. We're just not going to take any chances at all that we put our food in the danger zone of 40 to 140 degrees. So I hope this has been helpful, and here's to safety. We all need to practice safety always. So thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next week for another Micro Moment Monday.